What's up, guys? We have finally reached the end of the regular season. It turns out we're gonna have the #1 record in the Western Conference. As expected, Giannis comes home with the MVP, Cade Cunningham is Rookie of the Year, Andre Drummond is Sixth Man of the Year, Wendell Carter comes home with Most Improved Player of the Year, and Ime Udoka, if I'm pronouncing that right, I think for the Celtics, he is their Coach of the Year. Surprisingly, looking over the All-NBA teams, and wouldn't you be surprised to know that we didn't have a single Trailblazer make the roster? Who would have thought that Damian Lillard averaging 28 and 7 just wouldn't be enough? Anyways, we got into the play-in tournament, and it looks like the San Antonio Spurs actually made it on. The Spurs, led by DeJounte Murray and Keldon Johnson, not too much of a team. I'm actually really surprised to even see them defeat Denver. But outside of DeJounte Murray, they really just have a lot of shooters that might just be a bit annoying to stop. But let's see how Greg Popovich is going to do this time around. So we're sitting here with 15 more wins than them, making me pretty confident that we're going to be able to come out with this one on top. But anyways, this game actually ended up being a lot harder than I thought it was supposed to be. I ended up turning on the sliders even harder to make it even more above Hall of Fame difficulty because I thought, why not? And the Spurs really just did a good job hanging in, as we'll see a little bit later. Kind of just possessions were like this. They were really dominating us on the boards. Might be something we have to look into in the next offseason because that really kept them in for a large portion of the game. Right here, though, we just get a bad switch onto Damian Lillard. Of course, that's going to be an easy 2 points down low. Now we're running the Paul George, Marc Gasol pick and roll. Gasol at this age, he can't even dunk, but he can still make a layup, so that's something. Damian Lillard was definitely going off, though. He's one of the few guys on our offense that was really getting things going. A lot of his dribble moves and just his overall speed really had no problem scoring on them, and right there he gets that kind of crazy and one layup. But Damian Lillard really wasn't having too many issues this game. I was getting by them relatively easily. Or like right here, how we're going to get the switch onto Duncan Robinson. We're going to try and just run a screen to get him into the corner. He gets his guy to jump, and that's a Lillard dunk. That already puts him off with, I think, our first 13 points of the game because Lillard is basically doing whatever he wants right now. Trying to get things to go in a little bit different way, we're going to be running an Andre Iguodala Damian Lillard screen. Lillard's able to slip open, and he throws it down, continuing to dominate the first quarter. But the Spurs offense is just continuing to go through. Right here we get a bad switch from Jusuf Nurkic onto Duncan Robinson. Gives him way too much room, and Robinson, of course, is going to hit the corner three. Here, though, Anthony Simons, he's just going to basically bully his way down low, will his way into the post, and that's going to be 2 easy points for Jusuf Nurkic. Haven't really had too much Paul George action going up until this one. Of course, we're going to run a floppy set with him. A catch and shoot, very easy shot for Paul George. That's his first 3 points on the board. Lillard once again switched onto Duncan Robinson. That's going to be way too easy. We're going to isolate for him. Lillard's going to hit him with a step back, way too quick to get around Robinson, and we're actually able to get a posterizer dunk. I swear that's one of the few ones that I've gotten this year. Honestly, it wasn't even that spectacular, but I was just that happy to actually get Lillard to throw it down over Keldon Johnson there. On offense, though, Lillard once again just forces his way into the hoop with a 63% contest. He somehow gets that one to go in. But as you can see from the score and just see on possessions like this, the Spurs are still competing with us every single step of the way. That's going to make this one 26-26. Lillard running around screens, can't get open there, but his three is just such a weapon. They're going to leave Norman Powell open. You know if Norman Powell scores, I'm going to have to show it. As you can see, though, we are starting off the third quarter, and we're still down by a point to the Spurs just because they've been able to match us. And honestly, outside of Lillard and a bit from George, no one else has really been doing much on offense. This possession here, Paul George is basically locked up. We're able to score just because George is able to bully the smaller defender. With the Spurs on offense now, they're going to run a nice cut here, and that's going to be dunked right over Jusuf Nurkic as they stay in control of this one. And I'm not going to let that one last too long, as Marcus Smart here, he's going to bring the ball up the court, and we're going to get a down screen for Norman Powell. Norman Powell's on the screen, so you know what's going to happen next. This time he's going to get a green release, giving us a temporary lead going into this middle of the third quarter. Now the Spurs, this is something that they were doing all game, is basically running these really annoying double screens. Once again here, we just can't do anything on the boards where Thaddeus Young gets 2 rebounds and then he decides just to put it in himself. But a good screen from Paul George is going to free himself open for the dunk. Right here, Duncan Robinson hits a pretty nasty step back, but George, he's able to get a good contest on it. Marcus Smart is going to throw the touchdown pass to George on the fast break. Even though back on defense, this time the Spurs are going to come back, basically hit an impossible shot from just about 6 feet outside of the basket. I don't know how he got the green on that. On offense here, we're going to get another screen with Paul George. He slips past Duncan Robinson. Robinson's just way too slow. George is able to get the dunk. He basically comes back on offense. We're trying to spam a few dribble moves with him. Simons, he's going to run around the screen. He gets a big shot in this game off of Paul George. George has really been having a huge second half for us. Honestly, a big reason why we're even in this game. Spurs, they'll get another contested shot, giving them the 3-point lead. Gonna try not let that one last for too long. Nazir Little gets his man to jump. Don't really have an open shot though, but Damian Lillard, he finds his way around the screen. He hits a big 3 in their face. That ties it at 49 though. Spurs are going to come around, run another screen, a good contest from Little, but that's just a little too late. Get it? Okafor comes back, gets the rebound. I honestly don't know how he made that. Post hooks are kind of a weird one this year. Trying to make it 51-51 to go at the end, but for some reason they just kind of slipped through off some poor Andre Iguodala defense, giving them a lead going into it, and then they also get a turn, just kind of like how we got that cheesy little finish with Lillard earlier. Offensively, we're trying to keep up with the Spurs, which is something I never thought I would have to say. Simons and Nance, they're able to get a good screen roll in, and that's one of the few points that Nance is going to have for this game. Marcus Smart somehow does that. I don't know how he was able to both get by DeJounte Murray, make that layup, and then he's able to hit the free throws on top of it, so he's going to give us a brief lead. Nurkic forces a bad path, which is going to go right to Simons. Simons, we're going to try and get it to Paul George. I take a bad shot with George, but we're basically bailed out with a Jakob Poeltl foul. And right here, of course, Paul George, he isn't going to do that PG thing. He actually hits both of his free throws, giving us a 2-possession lead, which is huge in this game. I get a little too confident going for the dunk with Andre Iguodala, but somehow Jusuf Nurkic gets a really weird tip in on it. But that still just doesn't last too long as Spurs get a nice move down low. And actually back-to-back nice moves down low as now Jakob Poeltl is able to get that post up on Lillard. Paul George has been carrying us from a playmaking sense, and here he's going to get himself back on the board with another big catch-and-shoot 3, giving us the lead. Now we are up by 3 with just a minute left. I think you know what time it is. We're going to give the ball to George. He's not going to do too much with it, but we're going to have Lillard. Lillard runs around the screen. He's going to hit the 3, and that is the dagger for this one. After a huge 3, Lillard is able to run it around. This one, he's going to end it for us, and this actually is going to be the end of game 1. Lillard and George basically carried the team in this game. Lillard in 18 minutes put up 22 points, going 8 of 18 from the field. And then Paul George in 20 minutes put up 20 points, going of 8 of 14 from the field. Besides that, no one else was really able to do much. Everyone kind of just played their role, but outside of that, didn't really contribute too much on the offensive end of things. We're going to go ahead and sim through these next ones. In game 2, we actually get a huge start going 30-8 in the first quarter, something the Spurs are just not able to recover from. This right here, I just wanted to take a look at. This was the play-in game between the Spurs and the Nuggets. And yeah, even with a Nikola Jokic triple-double and Michael Porter putting up 22 points, that just wasn't enough for him. Makes you wonder what that last possession was like with DeJounte Murray and Jakob Poeltl putting up 20 points each, and Duncan Robinson having 19 on 5 3-pointers. Still really surprised to see the Spurs team make it, and kind of wish we got to see what that Nuggets series was going to look like. Anyways though, game 3 is another absolute blowout, 117-97. Here though, we're going to jump into game 4. Finally, it looks like the Spurs may have been putting themselves together, because this one is a lot closer. They get a brief lead at the middle of the third. This one worries me a little bit though, so I'm actually going to hop in, and we're hopping in off the inbound. First thing we're going to do is find Paul George. George is going to get himself into the post, something I don't do usually too often. But right here, we're actually going to get a nice fader with Paul George, just trying to really ice out this game for him. Andre Iguodala gets kind of lucky there that Duncan Robinson decides not to punish the defense, but there we kind of overcommit on Robinson. Robinson's going to hit that open 3. The Spurs, of course, with just their impossible paint shots, they're going to do that. 2.5 minutes left. We're going to get the ball to Lillard. Lillard just basically breaks the game here. We're going to hit him with the step back. Doesn't matter with the contest. This one might actually be the one that just seals the series. This might be the shot of the series for Damian Lillard. Hits him with the crossover, hits him with the step back, and yeah, that is just Damian Lillard. That is just way too much for anyone on the Spurs to be able to handle. Anyways, that's a 7-point lead with a minute left, because basically for the next minute and a half, we couldn't do much. But Norman Powell there, he gets one more dunk, which is basically the icing on the cake. Powell had 26 points this game, basically being our hero. Norman Powell, you have to love him in the simulations, although his in-game play still makes me question him sometimes. But anyways, that is the end of the series as we sweep the San Antonio Spurs. Paul George and Damian Lillard absolutely dominated. The two of them basically combined for 26 points per game. Lillard stepped up his playmaking, his shooting, and scoring. Same with Paul George. Meanwhile, Norman Powell is also putting in 19 points per game. Pretty happy with how this team's going. Looks like in the next round, we're going up against the Pelicans. And I actually did look back. Looks like the Pelicans made a 3-0 comeback on the Mavericks. Anyways, stay tuned for that one as Zion Williamson is averaging 39 points per game. That's going to be a headache to stop. Alright guys, I'll catch you later.